Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus, and before I start my playthrough of Sire, I decided to do a quick playthrough of Tribes, which is pretty much a re-implementation of Tribes Early Inventors. This one has been kind of redesigned together with the designer apparently and Cosmos Spiele, who were kind enough to provide me this review copy here, so thanks for that. As I mentioned, I will be doing a full playthrough, and I think I will play with 3 players. It's a fairly quick game, so I should be able to handle this in one episode. So yeah, let's see how things go. Okay, and here we are. This is the setup for Tribes. I think there is no real difference in respect to player count. I think it will more or less look all the same. There are some difference in respect to how many victory points the, let's say, last player starts the game. So in this case, the third player gets 1 victory point right off the bat. But apart from that, that's pretty much it. So I think, as usual, I will explain the rules as I go. Maybe I should explain when the game actually ends or where we start. So we start down here in the Paleolithic, late Paleolithic age. Wow, that's a tough word for me. And we are basically going into the Neolithic age. And last but not least, we may reach the Bronze Age, and the game will end when we have, in a 3-player game, triggered 3 of those events. In a 2-player game, that's 2, and a 4-player game, guess what, it's 4 of those events that have to trigger in order to finish the game. Then you finish the round, and then you tally up your score, and whoever has the most amount of those nice looking victory points here is the winner of the game. The majority of victory points are being made by those so-called achievements here. And sorry for that, I'm playing with the German version of the game. I'm pretty sure there is not yet an English version out, other than the original first version, of course. But in this case, that's cooking. So we could invent cooking, and then whoever goes here first gets 2 victory points, or the others only get 1, and so on. There are also some victory points in respect to who has some majorities of landscape tiles and whose father let's say up the line here in respect to their developments, but I come to that when I do the final scoring. But it's pretty easy. So when you reach this level of your movement, you will gain 6 victory points by the end of the game. A round in Tribes is very simple. You choose one of those actions, and yes, you have to choose one of those actions, then you do whatever it's printed on that tile. So in this case, Black, who is the starting player, could in theory go for this movement action here. If he wants to move, then he doesn't need to pay anything. If he wants to go to the second action here, he would have to put one of his seashells on the, let's say, all the tiles he's passing over. Definitely, I think, a well-known mechanic. I love it. Pretty much in Majesty, but it works very well here as well. So in this case, yeah, he could really go for moving. He could pay 1 seashell in order to scout or to do this achievement here, or he could do a scout again, but in this case he would need to place 2 seashells on all those tiles he's moving over. I think that much is clear, and whoever gets one of those, or triggering one of those tiles with some seashell, is allowed to grab all the seashells that are on this tile. Okay, what does he want to do? I think that's not really great what he's looking at. So I think he will go for this development tile. So he will place his seashell here. He will grab this tile. This goes here. And now Black has to make a choice. He could scout, which would also be okay for him, but he could directly go for an achievement here. This is this hand symbol here. He cannot do both. It's really either or. And I think in this case, as he started the game with those 3 landscapes here, so he has wheat, he has incense, that's my name by the way, in German apparently, and he has some goats. So he started the game putting one of his tribesmen on this wheat tile here, which means he has 1 resource. You don't really get tokens or so. As long as you have one of or more of your tribesmen on one of those tiles, you are now considered to have 1 wheat. And guess what? In order to invent cooking or make this achievement, yeah, you would have to have 1 piece of wheat. And so I think, yeah, that's a no-brainer for him. He will place one of his stones here. Therefore, oops, where is the token? Here. He will now score 2 victory points. Not a bad start. He will also advance his birth track up 1 space. So his birth action is now getting more powerful. You see those little lines here next to it. Right now it doesn't score him any additional victory points by the end of the game, but yeah, he's getting there.
Right now he's not triggering an event, so that's only for the second and the fourth one here. You can only go once on each of those achievements. So black is now done, and in a 3-player game apparently we will only get to here. So this will trigger one event maximum, and on top of this we will flip the next level achievement, which is cheese making, which requires you to have 2 goats in total, but of course you see it for yourself. This would score the first player to go there for victory points, which is not bad in this game. Let's place the action tile he was using at the end of the chain, and that's already the end of the black player's turn. We come to white, who started this game with this setup. He has horses, he has incense, and he also has wheat. Normally you really try when you do you basically get to choose where you start your tribesmen on, and normally you would go for, let's say, a tile or which no one of the other players did choose, because again, you want to be first, you want to score the most victory points. In this case you have at least some direction. So he started the game with horses, and I think he also wants to make an achievement. So he will place the seashells here, he will grab this tile, they will slide down, and as he has the horses, he wants to invent traps. Okay, that also scores him 2 victory points. That's always the same for the first position in the Neolithic age, so he scores 2 victory points for that. His strength will increase by 1, and strength doesn't give you any victory point, but all of those events that are out there refer to strength. It's always the strongest player, the weakest player. In this case, he's clearly the strongest player, which gives you really some flexibility when it comes down to those events. You will see those sooner or later as well. We also have to reveal the Neolithic tile, which is metal melting, I believe. It also gives you some strength, and he would trigger basically 2 events with the first 2 positions. You need 2 ore in order to more or less invent this. Let's put the tile at the end of the row, and then it's already the gray player who started the game with horses, goats and gold in this case, and the color of the player colors are very odd here, but I think they work fairly well. He's the last player, so he starts the game with 1 starting victory point. And what is he gonna do? In theory he could now spend 3 shells in order to go for an achievement 2, but I think that's too expensive for him. Maybe he would rather go for either the birth action or the scouting action, or maybe that's more exploration, and I think he wants to go for the scout action here. So he will only place 1 of those shells, so he's allowed to get these shells because he's getting this exploration action. Let's slide everything down. Next we check the progress track here for the exploration token. They all start down here, so whenever you take this exploration action right now, you are allowed to grab 1 tile out of the bag. So let's quickly do that. Not looking, and here he found a nice little incense tile, which works pretty well for him, and you are allowed to place those tiles really everywhere, of course adjacent to one of your existing tiles, and I think he wants to place it here so he has some flexibility on where he wants to move to later on. Last thing to do is to place the tile at the end of the row, and then it's already the next round. We start with black again, and I think he wants to move, so he doesn't need to spend anything. No, he gets 3 seashells from this tile, which is definitely great, so we can place this tile right to the end of the line right away. Again, we check the progress track for the movement action. Right now they can all move, or they all get 1 movement point, and I think for now he wants to move here to this goat, and that's already the end for the black players. 1 movement point, and then we go over to white, and what does he want to do? He could either move, which would make sense for him, or he would give birth, and I think in this case that's the cheap one, so he will do the birth action. Yes, again we have a track for that. Right now white and gray, they all get 1 extra tribesman, but black would get 2 if he would trigger that action. But for now, yeah, white simply adds one additional tribesman to his land here, and you always have to place a new tribesman to a space where you already have at least one, so I could not place him here. And yeah, that's also the end of the round for white. Then it's gray, and yes, he definitely wants to do the achievement action here with the hand. Right now he has 1 gold resource, which means he can invent jewelry. So let's do that. So he will now get 2 victory points. He will increase his movement speed, which is always, that's one of the important pieces in this game too. So with a movement action, he would be allowed to move 2 spaces or get 2 movement points. You can split them whatever way you prefer. Let's see what we will reveal here in the Neolithic age, and that's the mysticism. Okay, it gives you some birth, and you need incense for that. Kind of makes sense. And we must not forget, we will see an event. So let's see what we get. And here we have signs in the heaven. Everyone gets to explore for free pretty much, and you get that many tiles according to your strength value, which is cool for the white player. And we place this event tile at the end of the row, and yeah, then sooner or later it will get triggered. Then it's black, and yeah, I think he really has to go for this achievement here. That's so cheap, and he currently has a goat. Keep in mind, he doesn't have a wheat right now. In order to have a wheat, you really have to have one of your tribesmen on this tile, which is the reason why you really want to give birth later on. But it's still pretty good for him because he will go into hunting. Again, he will score 2 extra victory points. He will increase his exploration track. So next time he's going for an exploration action, he's allowed to grab 2 of those tiles. Reveal the next achievement in the Neolithic age. And here we have something like agriculture or so. But of course we must not forget, we will see yet another event. And here we have less predators, also a good event. Everyone gets newborns according to his strength value. So yeah, right now we are pretty lucky, to be honest. But I believe the tougher ones are already waiting for us. And then it's white, and I think he wants to explore for now. Yeah, sounds like a good plan. He only gets 1 tile out of the bag, so let's quickly do that. What does he get? And oh, that's another piece of incense. That's okay actually, because he may want to go for this mysticism here. The problem now is, in order to go to this stage of, let's say, an achievement, he would have to have, let's say, the technology that's beyond it. So that's really some kind of a tech tree. There is, let's say, a shortcut to that. Every player has this little arrow token, which you could place once during the game in order to allow you basically cross-develop. So he could go for this from this trap to the mysticism, but all the other players could do the same then too once this token is placed. But overall, I think that's not too bad for him. But I think this is already the end. We go to the gray player, and I think he wants to do the birthing action anyway. So let's grab the shell, let's grab the tile. He only gets 1 new tribesman, and yeah, he has to go to the same tile as 1 other of his tribesmen. Again, that's the end of the round. You see, it's a very, very quick game, but actually I'm doing a lot of thinking between shots here. Let's move over to black, and yes, he also wants to give birth. He has 2, or he has reached the 2nd stage of his birth track, so he gets 2 additional tribesmen, but still they both have to go to a tile where he has at least 1 other tribesman. He could split it up, so if whatever 1 tribesman would be here, he could also place 1 here, but right now he only had 1, so they all have to go there, and there is no real limit on how many, let's say, tribesmen can be placed on one of those land tiles or landscapes. Then it's white, and I think, yeah, he will move. So he grabs this seashell here, and you see those event tiles come closer, but right now they are not really bad ones, so it doesn't really hurt you. I think before we go to the mysticism one, let's do the easy one first. So he wants to move 1 of his tribesmen. He has only 1 movement point, unfortunately, so he wants to move in here to the wheat tile because he can still learn on how to cook. I think Gray wants to go for a movement action here. I was quickly thinking of if I could also go for this metal melting here, but even though I have two dudes on this gold landscape tile here, this does not count as having two golden resources. You really need to have also two tiles. You can go on and go for wild cards later on in this game, so you could flip those tiles, and I think I really want to explain this to you, but right now this would really not be the best move for him. So in this case, let's go for the movement. This is now the first tile. You can skip over it by paying seashells or whatnot, so you don't have to trigger, but sooner or later you're really running out of those, and sometimes you will then be forced to go for this event tile, even if it's not beneficial for you, or maybe it comes with a penalty. But okay, Gray has 2 movement points, which is actually pretty good for him. So he will move one guy here and one guy there. So he has now 1 horse and 1 goat. So sooner or later he could go for both of those technologies, traps and hunting. Well, I think he set him up pretty well for the upcoming turns. Then it's back to black. He doesn't want to trigger this. He knows White is going for this because he has 2 movement points, 2 strength points. So why should he give him 2 points? So I think he will give him a seashell instead, and I think in this case he will simply go for this exploration action, which means he's allowed to grab 2 tiles because he improved on his exploration track. So here we have another incense. Let's place it like this, and the second tile is a horse. Okay, a horse of course is good, so let's place it like this. Yeah, I think that's not too bad for him. So we have mysticism out there. He could still go for the hunting, so overall definitely a good draw for him. Then it's White, and yes, he will totally go for this event here, Signs in the Heaven. So everyone gets a free exploration action according to his strength value. This is now removed from the game. He still gets the seashell though. Let's start with a White player who gets now 2 draws from the back because he is farthest on this strength track. So let's see what he gets. A goat. Oh, that's pretty good for him. And the second one is another wheat, which is also okay. Because keep in mind we have this agriculture development tile here waiting for us, or achievement waiting for us. Gray also gets 1 of those tiles, and he gets another goat, which is also okay, I guess. Let's place it like this. And last but not least we have black, and oh, that's not so great. That's another piece of incense. In theory there are these Bronze Age tiles. They all require 3 resources, and keep in mind you can always go and flip one of those tiles for a wild card, but I think right now that's still okay for all of those. It was a free action after all. Then it's Gray, and I think he wants to go for another achievement here. So let's slide it down. He has horses and he has goats. Right now there's still this event tile out. So I think in this case, let's rather go for those horses here, which means he will also invent traps. So he gets 1 victory point for that. He will increase 1 step on this strength track here too. And of course we will see another event now. And here we have the woolly rhinoceros. That's a bad one because it says you lose 2 victory points if you are the weakest. And the U is really you. So whoever is triggering this is the only one who will be affected by this tile. If you are the strongest or share the strongest position, then you still trigger it, but you don't get the penalty. Again, right now, if the black player would do that, yeah, he would apparently lose 2 victory points. Back to black, and I think he wants to do another exploration action. So let's grab this tile. He still gets 2 tiles. So let's see, that's gold. That's actually pretty good for him. And then we have the second one. That's another wheat. Where do we want to place wheat? Let's place it here next to the other wheat. He really has to start moving now because camping there on this goat doesn't really help him too much, to be honest. But yeah, that's already the end of his action. Then is White. He's now sharing the strongest position, but still he could get 2 shells from this action. And yeah, I think that's better for him. So he will grab this event here. So everyone gets now babies according to his strength level. So for white, that's 2, and I think he will split them. It's the same for gray, and black only gets 1, but he's not complaining about this. Then it's gray, and I think he wants to move. Oops, move. So let's put this here. He has 2 movement points, so I think he wants to move one guy here, and I think let's move one guy here. Really spreading those guys out is always a good idea, so he's really well positioned for the future turns. Then it's back to black, and he really has to start moving too, so he will use this tile in order to move. He only has 1 movement point, but that's the same for white, but you have to start somewhere, and I think he will totally go to this gold resource, because jewelry making gives you 1 extra movement point, which really gets more important the later you get in this game. I think white wants to make an achievement here, so he will grab this tile, and I think he really needs to be also on the left side on the board. So he has 1 wheat, that's not a problem for him, so he will also go for this cooking here. Therefore he scores 1 victory point. His birth track goes up, and we will also see yet another event. And here we have a mastodon. I think that's the same as in English. You get 2 victory points if you are the strongest. So the perfect tile for gray and white, but of course it's all the way at the end of the action row here, so you really have to spend a lot of seashells in order to get there early. Then it's gray, and this is really tempting, but he needs to go into more achievements. So wow, whoever goes here next, yeah, that's 4 shells for this guy. Yeah, he will go for this achievement here, and I guess he would go for this hunting here, which means he will also score 1 more victory point. He will get 1 extra movement on the exploration track. Don't see an event here, and that's pretty much it for him. Then it's black, and yes, I think he will totally go for those seashells here. It doesn't really fancy too much this, but he doesn't want to place any more seashells onto this tile, which means he gets 2 more guys. And I think, no, let's place one. No, let's place them both here, because they can go south and they could move up north. We really need to come to, let's say, new areas sooner. And yeah, that's already the end for black. And then it's white, and I think he totally needs to do some more exploration for now, because he really needs gold. Problem is he only gets 1 tile out of the bag. What did we get? Another goat. That's not really great. He can use it, that's for sure, but it's really not great. And gray wanted to go for an achievement, but he's basically running out of seashells, and if he would go for here, he would spend all of his shells. So this is not what he wants to do. So I think he wants to trigger this event here. He's not affected because he's not the weakest, so it simply goes away, but at least he gets 1 shell out of this, and it's very good for the black player apparently, but he really didn't want to run out of shells. And then yeah, it's the black player, and yes, black wants to make an achievement here, absolutely, because he really has to increase his movement. So he gets 1 victory point, which is okay, but what's more important, he now also has 2 movement points. Hooray! Then it's white, and I think white doesn't want to leave the mastodon to the gray player. He's also slowly running out of shells, but right now it's still okay, so he will place 2 of those. He will grab this event, and because he's one of the strongest players in the game, he scores 2 extra victory points. Then it's gray, and I think gray wants to make an achievement too, so he will get this. And because right now he has 2 goats, he wants to invent cheese making here. In order to get there from hunting, he has to spend his little arrow, which is fine for him. He's not present down here. And so yeah, let's do that. So he will now score 4 victory points. So now we are starting to talk here. He will also increase his movement 1 more space, which is really great. And so he will also score 1 extra victory point at the end of the game. We will flip over the technology up here. That's weaving. You need 3 goats in order to achieve this, and all of those will trigger events. But I think this is the case for all of those, if I remember correctly. And you get 1 additional strength point, which is never a bad thing. And we will also see our first Neolithic event, which is a pretty mean one. Slavery. You get basically newborns according to your strength level. Wow, that's a tough one, but actually very good for all of those players, because no one is really losing something. Again, it's pretty simple for black. He will grab all those 3 seashells. And seashells are a tiebreaker at the end of the game, by the way. But he will move. He has now 2 movement points, if I'm not mistaken. So he may want to go here and maybe to here. This gives him the 2 incense he needs in order to go to mysticism up here, which is 4 victory points. For white it's tough. All those tiles really suck. So I think in this case he will go for the first one, because he's also running out of things, and he doesn't want to lose all of those. So he will go for another birth action, which gives him 2 extra dudes for his tribe. Then it's gray. He wants to explore. Sorry for that. And because he can draw 2 tiles, he will do so. Okay, that's the first one. Another horse. Right now that's not really good. And yet another goat, which is cool for him. Are you kidding me? Wow, that's amazing, because he, with this tile, he can quickly move up to weaving. Wow, that's 6 points for him. Well, that's actually not too bad for him. For black, it's simple. He will go for this achievement here. He has 2 incense resources. So yes, he will totally go for mysticism. He will score 4 points. We will reveal the topmost achievement tile, which is payment transactions or so, I would say. And yeah, it would give you 6 more victory points. But of course, we will see yet another Neolithic event. Something like wandering. So basically you are allowed to move according to your strength value. So another good thing actually. And I nearly forgot, black will get 1 more step on his burst track here, so this would give him 1 extra victory point by the end of the game. White is really not doing good, but I think he wants to go for those seashells here, so this gives him another birth action worth 2 more tribe members. And I think there is also bonus of 2 victory points by the end of the game if you have the most tribesmen in your clan. So overall, also something to look forward to. And now I think gray wants to be fast. Yeah, let's go for it. So he will go for this achievement here. So let's slide it down. For weaving he needs 3 goats, but he only has 2 of those. But I think in this case I want to use those horses as a wild card, as a joker. But now this tile is now out of the game until the end of the game, but still those now count as 3 goats, enough to make this achievement here. He will score 6 points for that. His strength value will go up accordingly, and we will see our very first Bronze Age event. And keep in mind, triggering 3 of those ends the game, really triggering those, not just putting them out. Really, we have to trigger them. And that's a nasty one. Extreme cold. You are losing 3 of your tribesmen. Doesn't really matter how strong you are. If you trigger this, you have to lose those guys. Wow, that's a tough one. Then it's black. He wants to move. He has 2 movement points in total. So I think he will move 1 guy down here and maybe 1 guy down here. Again, spreading those out. And again, it's tough for white. He can go for babies or he can go for babies. But I think in this case, he really has to spend some shells in order to explore. And unfortunately, he still only gets 1 tile. And that's the piece of gold he needed. Okay, that's not bad. But it comes really, really late now. But then it's gray. He definitely wants to go for slavery in order to get those guys. He has 3 strength points now, which is awesome, though this gets removed as well. Let's slide everything down. So let's see, doesn't really need any more sheep if I'm not mistaken. So let's place one here, and maybe, I don't know, let's place one there. Black wants to move again, I believe. So let's do that. He still has 2 movement points. So he will move here and one guy there. No. Let's take this guy. Then it's white who can finally do some movement here with this event. He has a strength of 2, so he can move 2 spaces. This gets removed from the game. So he will totally move in here and he will move some guy over here. Then it's gray, and yes, he will go for those shells. I think he will go for yet another achievement here. Why not? And he may want to go for this metal smelting here. So he needs 2 pieces of gold. Right now he has only 1, but I think he might as well be able to flip this tile here over too. I think he has given up on getting the bonus points for having the most landscapes, and those deactivated ones do not count apparently. And with the level 2 and level 3 achievements, you have at least to have 1 of the required resources. So I could not have gone for both of those green resources here, just flip them over, but here we are fine. So let's place the tile here. He will get 4 more victory points. His strength will go up. He's now at the last level of strength. Wow, that's amazing. We will flip over this tile here, fermentation, which requires 3 wheat in total. Of course, we still have 1 event. That's fertile grounds. Everyone is exploring according to his strength value. So that's another good one for all of the players. Black wants to go for an achievement here too, and because he has 2 wheat, he will go for the agriculture one, so he gets 4 more points. His I value goes up, and yes, we will see yet another Neolithic event, which is a giant beaver. You gain 2 victory points if you are the strongest. Perfect tile for the gray player. Of course, let's not forget to flip over the last tile, which is philosophy, and yeah, you need 3 incense in order to develop this. White really doesn't want to lose his guy, so he will go for this birth tile here. He's really running out of seashells, so he will give birth, which means he gets 2 more dudes, so he will definitely get those bonus points, unless he's really losing some of those because of the extreme cold. And I think gray wants to explore some more. Does he want to move? No, let's explore for now. So he gets 2 more landscapes. That's wheat. Oh, that's pretty neat for him. And he gets another piece of incense, which he could use as well. They're both pretty good for him. Black wants to move, so he gets 1 shell back. And yes, he will move down here. And what does he want to do with the rest, to be honest? I think right now, let's move this guy here. White needs to achieve something, so he will go for this tile here, and right now he has 1 piece of gold, which is so important for him because this gives him the movement point he desperately needed. So let's not forget that. So he has also 2 movement points, but we will see yet another event from the Paleolithic event age. And that's another nice one, the mammoth. You gain 3 victory points if you are the strongest. Awesome. And by the way, I really like the artwork, those cave paintings here on those event tiles. Black, I think he doesn't want to suffer from this, so he will go for, can he achieve something? No, I think he cannot. So let's go for some birth here, but he only gets 1 dude. Oof, it's expensive, but he will go there anyway. Black wants to make an achievement, and because he has 3 incense, he totally wants to develop philosophy for 6 more points. That's insane. His movement value will go up as well to 3, and yes, we will see yet another Bronze Age event, which is also very nasty one. That's an earthquake. You have to exhaust 3 of your landscapes. Wow, that really blows. And then I think white doesn't care anymore. He will go for this extreme cold. He will grab all those shells. We will keep this tile nearby so that we remember we have triggered one of those, but now he's losing 3 guys. 1, 2 and 3, but I think he still has the majority if I'm not mistaken. Over to Gray, he will definitely go for this tile here, fertile soil. Everyone gets to explore according to his strength. For him that's a 4 even, wow. So maybe he can still make the majority. Okay, here we have a goat. The goat, no, he doesn't need goats. Oh man, he really has goats like crazy. That's 1, 2, goat is much better. He gets 2 more. And here we have a horse. I think that's also could come in hand. No, we don't need horses anymore. Ugh, that's tough. But he still gets 1 last tile, and that's another piece of incense, which is okay for him. Black has a strength of 1, so he only gets 1 tile. That's another piece of gold. That's good. And white gets 2 more tiles too. What? Another gold. Okay, he could still use it sooner or later. And the second tile is another horse. Horses are really useless in this game. And by the way, those achievements are kind of random. So there are 5 of every age. So every time you're removing 1 of each of those ages, it's not the greatest amount of, let's say, replayability in respect to those, but they could come up really everywhere pretty much, and you're never sure what resources you need. So in this case we were basically unlucky because only 1 horse was needed here, so both horses are missing from those ages up here. Over to black, and I think he doesn't want to give the 2 victory points to Gray, so he will trigger it. He doesn't get anything for it, but also Gray doesn't get those. Unfortunately, that's a bad thing for Gray, but it's also already the end of his round, so he's really suffering for the team, but he sees that Gray is really in the lead right now. He has the feeling he's in the lead. Then it's white. I think he wants to move. He has 2 movement points, so let's set up right away for going from cheese making to weaving. Then it's Gray, and I think he really wants to have those victory points. 1, 2 and 3. He's clearly the strongest, so he's defeating this mammoth here, which gives him 3 more points. I think black wants to move for now. He has now 3 movement points, so let's do that. 1, 2 and 3. Wow, this is getting tasty. White wants to achieve something with this tile, and of course he wants to go into cheese making, so he also increases his speed by 1. He gets 2 victory points if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's good. And I think Gray wants to go for some of those shells here, so he will go for a birth action, which gives him 1 more dudes. Black wants to go for another achievement now. He will flip this tile to the back, so this is now a wild card, so he has 3 gold, which is enough to explore this currency kind of thing up there, so he gets 6 points. We will upgrade his birth track, so he's now up here, but this would score him 3 more points at the end of the game. But we will also see yet another Bronze Age event. That's the brown bear. You lose 2 victory points if you are the weakest. White will go for those tiles here, because he could still go for another majority, so he will explore. But white only gets 1 tile, and that's another piece of gold, which is actually good for him. I think Gray wants to move. He has 3 movement points. I think they all do now. So yeah, let's go 1, 2 and 3 movement points here. I think then it's black. He wants to do or go for another achievement. He still has 2 pieces of gold, and I think finally he wants to increase his strength, so he will place this progression token or this arrow token here. He will go from jewelry to metal melting, therefore he will score yet another 2 points. His strength goes up, so now both white and black are the weakest. And yes, we will see yet another Neolithic event which is another good one. The warm summer, everyone gets new babies according to his strength value. For white, it's simple. He also wants to make an achievement. He has 3 goats, which means he can invent weaving 2. He gets 4 points for that. His strength value goes up, so now he's again stronger than the black player. And yes, we will see another Bronze Age event. And here we have fire. Everyone has to exhaust 2 of his landscapes. Oh, that's a good one if you really want to end the game. Very strategic tile. Yeah, then it's gray. He wants to explore once more. So he gets 2 more tiles. And this is another piece of gold. Doesn't really help him right now. But he gets 1 more draw. And gosh, another incense piece. He was really hoping for some wheat. Then it's black, and he doesn't want to trigger this tile. He will go for this, so he will give birth. He gets 3 more people, which is definitely not bad. So 1, 2, and I don't know, 3. Then it's white. He will go for another exploration. So he gets 1 more tile. That's 1 weed. That's not bad. And gray wants to end the game sooner or later, so he will go for this brown bear here. He's the strongest, so he's not losing any points, but we will keep it here. And the next golden tile we see from the Bronze Age will actually end the game. Black still can move, but that's now his last seashell. And I'm not sure what he wants to do, to be honest. So let's move 1 guy here and 1 guy here. Doesn't really help him at all. White will make another achievement, I believe. So he will flip this tile here. So he has now 2 pieces of gold, which gives him 1 more point and 1 more step on the strength track. So he and gray are now the strongest. And then it's gray. I think he wants to end the game right away. So we have the fire here. He's the last player, so no one else gets a turn, but everyone has to exhaust 2 of his landscape tiles. Doesn't really matter, to be honest, because they will all stay the same. So here is white. And last but not least, we have black, but again, it doesn't really change a thing. But again, gray was the last player, so this game ends immediately. So let's tally up the score. So black gets 3 points here, 1 point here, 1 point there. So in total, that's 5 additional points from the track. White and gray both only get 1, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the case. Then we have the most tribesmen. That's both 9 for black. That's 2 points, and 2 points for gray, who has also 9. And gray also gets the 2 victory points for having the most active landscapes, even though he flipped 4 of those. But the others also kind of did that during the game. And because of his, let's say, huge strength, he was really able to get at least once or twice some bonuses here. So overall, I'm pretty sure that gray is the winner, even though black also scored pretty well, to be honest. So let's do that. And so the white player scored a measly 14 victory points, which is really not worth mentioning. Gray scored 27 points, whereas black won this game with 34 incredible victory points. So yeah, good job black. I was actually really counting on gray, but overall black was really everywhere. I think he was really doing good in respect to those achievements up here, especially getting 12 points from the Bronze Age. That's definitely what pretty much brought him the victory. And yes, this is how you play tribes. Again, I just wanted to show you how this game actually plays, not how to play it well. As usual, I made some very stupid decisions, especially from the white player, which is the reason why he lost so badly. But yeah, I still hope you get a good impression of the game, and yeah, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.